6-11 is dividing decimals by whole numbers. We're going to use the same 4 steps to solve every problem. The first step is estimate. Then step 2, you will move your decimals and divide it as if they're whole numbers. That's step 3. And then step 4, you will use your estimate to return the decimals back into your answer. Very similar to what we've been doing lately. So here's our first example. We're going to divide this decimal number by a whole number. Step 1, we will estimate. The 3 is already just a whole number, so we'll leave it as 3. We are going to use multiples of 3 to try to get as close to the first 2 digits of the other number. So we're trying to get to 21. Multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and 21. So that decimal number rounds to 210, and our estimate is 210 divided by 3, which 21 divided by 3 equals 7. There's one extra 0, so it's 7D. I'm going to write that down in the corner so we don't forget our estimate. We're going to look back at that for step 4. Step 2, we're going to move the decimals so that we have whole numbers. So I'm going to move the decimal out of the number so it's past the 3, and now we will have 2,163, a whole number. Step 3 now, we're going to divide them as whole numbers, and don't be afraid to use your estimates. So I'm going to use 70 as my first guess because we already know it's going to be close to that estimate. 70 times 3 is I'm going to do 700 because that'll be closer. We'll do 2,100. Now we'll subtract, and we get 63 there. I'm going to try 20 for my next one. 20 times 3 is 60. And then we'll subtract again, and I'm left with just 3. 3 can go into 3 one more time, and we'll have a remainder of 0. My answer is on the side when I add them up, and I get 721. And for step 4, we're going to return the decimals, so we need to put them back into our answer. And we're going to use our estimate to make sure it's close to that. So our estimate was 70. My decimal needs to go somewhere in my number so that it's close to 70. So 72 is pretty close. I'll put it right behind the 2. And there's my final answer. Let's do one more that's a little trickier this time. We have 12 7/10 divided by 4. We're going to follow the same 4 steps. The first step is to estimate. 4 stays as 4. And we're going to use the multiples of 4 to round the 12 7/10. So we have 4, 8, 12, and right away we get right on the number. So 12 divided by 4, that's a fact of 3. So my estimate is 3. Step 2 is to move the decimals out of the number so that we have a whole number. Now we have 127 divided by 4, and we're going to do step 3, which is to divide. Again, don't be afraid to use your estimate to help you out. I'm going to try 30. 30 times 4 is 120. Subtract, and we get 7. I can fit 4 into 7 one more time, and we get 3 as a remainder. So this is what makes this tricky. I have a remainder this time, 31, and we're going to write the remainder as a fraction to help us figure out what to do with it. So the remainder goes on top, that's my numerator, and the denominator is the divisor. So 31 3/4. Now I need to think about, is 31 3/4 closer to 31 or closer to 32? And 3/4 is almost a whole. So I'm going to say that's closer to 32. So that's my final answer that I'm going to work with, but we still have to do step 4. So it's not quite final yet. Step 4 is to return the decimals. We look to our estimate and put our decimal in the spot to make it closest to 3. So that's right behind the 3 in this case for 3 2/10. Now that's my final answer. Just to recap, remember when you have a remainder, you're going to write it as a fraction and then round it so that you can remember where to put the decimal, or you can figure out where to put the decimal.